Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of She Talks Business. We have a superstar guest here with you today. She was actually voted the most inspirational outdoors person in the Blue Ridge by Blue Ridge Outdoors magazine, among many other stellar things that she has done in her life. Anna, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Lisa. It's great to be here.
Yes, it's really good to be here. So, for those of you listening, our guest today is Anna Levesque. And Anna is the preeminent leader in the outdoor industry for whitewater kayak instruction. What differentiates Anna is her approach to physical and mental well-being and how this is tied to success on the water and in life. She inspires, leads, and coaches her clients on the self-leadership required to live a healthy, confident, and adventurous life. And she is a sought-after speaker and facilitator for empowering leaders in the outdoor industry. So, there's lots of amazing, amazing things that this woman has done. So, Anna, I'm so glad you're here. I always say you're one of the most courageous people I know.
Oh, thanks, Lisa. I appreciate that.
Maybe it's because I am afraid of the water and I watch you in your kayak and I see some of those crazy videos where you are just unstoppable. And I am blown away that a woman can be as you are.
Thanks. I love whitewater kayaking. What can I say? I love it. A lot of people, well, I think several people think I'm, a little crazy for loving it so much, but it challenges me, and it challenges me to be courageous. And being courageous is being afraid and taking action anyway. And so every time I'm at the top of a rapid that scares me, it challenges my courage. And so that carries over into the rest of my life. So I experienced so many benefits from taking on whitewater kayaking.
It's amazing. Yeah. It's absolutely amazing. So take us back to the beginning, because you're pretty much a celebrity in the whitewater kayak space for women. Like a lot of people really look up to you for not only your courage, but your skills and ability on the water, right? You're not just a pretty face that's brave on the rapids. Like you're actually a very, very talented award-winning kayaker. So talk to us a little bit about the beginning. When you started out, you're in university and you're thinking about your career. Did you imagine that your career would be in the whitewater space?
No, not at all. I did always want to be a professional athlete. I alpine ski raced as a kid, and I actually rode crew when I was in university, even though I'm short. But when I was on my way to law school, following in my dad's footsteps, or a broadcast journalist, right? Those were things I was interested in and thought that I would pursue. And then I got a summer job at a rafting company near my parents' house, and it was not glamorous. The summer job was in the kitchen, and I got to go whitewater rafting for the first time. And it blew my mind and changed my direction completely, because the people I was surrounded by, their priorities were doing what they loved, connecting with nature, and enjoying life, like having a lot of joy in their lives. And that was different from how, not that I didn't have joy growing up, I did, but that was not the priority. The priority was go to school, get a good job, make money, house, car, family. And that just didn't seem as satisfying to me once I discovered the river.
It's amazing. It's amazing how one experience in life like that can completely change the direction of your life. How did you tell your parents, hey, mom and dad, I'm not going to law school?
You know what? I can't remember the exact moment that I told them that, but I do remember they came to my graduation university. I was at the University of North Carolina, and I told them I wanted them to drop me off in West Virginia because I was going to spend the summer raft guiding. and they were not thrilled, you know, and is this a phase? Like, when are you going to get a real job? Gosh, I heard that forever, especially from my dad. Uh, and yeah, it was scary. And I have to give my parents credit, because even though they were questioning and they made it known that they weren't happy with that, they also let me go. They were like, yes, we'll drop you off. We're not giving you a car. We're not, like, you're going to do this on your own. And I think they thought I'd get tired of it, or I'd, run out of money. I was so committed, though, and having so much fun and resourceful, that I kept, opportunities kept coming up, and I kept stepping into those opportunities, where the courage comes again, right? The courage to, I took I think I had a couple $1,000s of graduation present money, and I bought a kayak and all my kayaking gear. That's what I invested in. And some folks might say, well, that's not very smart. You should invest for the future. And yet I did invest for the future. I just didn't realize that it was an investment in my future at the time, because who's to, buying a kayak, it's not the first thing you think of, is not, oh, I'm investing in my future. Yet when I look at myself now in my business, where I am now would never have happened had I not bought that first kayak, and invested the time and had the courage to go my own way.
So it's interesting, people say that courage is not the absence of fear. It's that you are willing to act in spite of your fear. And
yeah,
I know that in business, a lot of people look at some of the things that I've done and they think that they're really, really brave and courageous. And sometimes I don't actually feel like I was that brave. It just felt like it was the right thing to do. So can you talk about your journey and maybe share, because now you don't just do, you do whitewater kayak instruction, and you lead retreats, and you coach people and guide people that are interested in that outdoor healthy living lifestyle. Can you talk to us a little bit about your philosophy on courage, and what do you do to help people who are attracted to your work really tap into their own courage?
Great question. Well, first, I do think you're brave. And you have, by working with you in the space of business development strategy, I have gotten braver in that area. So I do think you're brave. And I find that if I allow or create a space for folks to show up just as they are, and then go from there and really take a look at the fear. So I do agree that courage is being afraid and taking action anyway. And if someone is not aware of their fear or accepting of their fear, then it's difficult to take action anyway, because what we resist persists. So if you're not being real with yourself in terms of, oh, wow, I am really nervous about this river, I'm nervous about this rapid. If you're like, oh, no, it's good, I'm not really that scared, it'll be fine, but on the inside, you're freaking out, then it's difficult to take powerful action, because you're not accepting and what's in reality. And when I can help people show up as they are, get familiar with their fear, and maybe even the root causes, it's a coping mechanism, it's an old habit pattern, then we can go from, okay, this is your fear, this is what it looks like, this is what it feels like. And because you know it and you're familiar with it, now here are some actions you can take to move forward and to find your courage. And I would say that's my strategy when I'm working with folks.
So you are also a student of Landmark. And one of the things that I've heard you say, you attended my Beach House Mastermind retreat this year. And one of the things that came up during the retreat that was something that you said is that a story or is that fact? And so how much of fear is really rooted in story and isn't really factual in your experience?
Ooh, I don't know how much, like to put a percentage on it. I don't know the answer to that question. I think it's something that I question for myself every time I feel fear. And typically there's, so maybe most of the time, actually, now that I'm talking, now that I'm answering, probably most of the time, uh, because there's what happened or what's happening, and then there's a story that I'm telling myself about what's happening, and that they're not always the same. And a lot of the fear, a lot of our suffering in life comes from the story that we tell ourselves. So, for instance, if I'm on a river, when you're whitewater kayaking, you have a neoprene skirt keeps the water out, and you learn how to roll yourself back up. But sometimes you can't roll yourself back up. And in those cases, you have to pull your skirt and swim. And swimming in a river is very scary, or it can be, because you're in the middle of the river and the river doesn't stop. It's not like the ocean that pushes you back to the beach, for instance, if you're in a wave. You just keep going until you can swim yourself to shore. So when someone swims, it can be a scary experience. And I like to encourage my students, okay, because when you swim, the facts are you had to pull your skirt because you missed the line. Yeah, you might have messed up or you might have been too scared. And then you swam to shore and your friends helped get your equipment to shore. And now you're standing on shore. Those are the facts. In our minds, and I know this has happened to me, in my mind, I'll say, oh, now I'm a crappy kayaker. Everyone thinks I'm a crappy kayaker. Maybe I shouldn't be out here. I don't know why I did that. This is terrible. And so then my mindset, my confidence starts spiraling, right? Because of the story I'm telling myself. And the result of that is that it may be like the third or fourth rapid on the river, and I might have 10 more rapids that I need to paddle to get down. If I get back in my kayak and the story is I'm a crappy kayaker, I shouldn't be here, I'm embarrassed, I'm carrying that all the way down the river, my performance is probably going to suffer.
Right.
Whereas if I can get out and I can say, wow, that was scary. And okay, I can learn from this and this. And thank goodness I have great friends. We're all on shore. They're checking in with me. Awesome. Now that was in the past. Now what's happening is that I have my boat. I can get back in and I can visualize the rest of the river. Then I can have my performance will reflect my actual skill versus spiraling into negativity.
So one of the things that I think is really unique about you as an athlete is your commitment to personal development. How important do you think that coaching and mentoring and mindset and like learning all of those soft skills are to your performance as a whole, and not just on the water, but even, if you look at your role, you are a leader to your community, you are a leader in your industry, and you're also the leader of your business. So how does that investing in your own personal self-growth help you in your business?
Well, I believe that self-awareness is power. It's the most powerful tool that I can develop for myself, because and more powerful than any amount of money or position or title, because when I have self-awareness, I have choice. If I'm not aware of what the impacts of my actions are on my business, on myself, on my relationships, on my clients, then I don't know what action to take next, right? And also my actions may be having a negative impact. And if I don't, like for instance, in business, if I keep undercharging and I just never reflect on that, which in the past that is true, right? Then how can I grow as a business? How can I make a greater impact? Same thing if with my messages and how I'm delivering whether that's marketing or delivering at a retreat or at giving a talk. If I don't reflect and debrief afterwards, well, what was the impact on me? What was the impact on the audience? Then it's difficult to improve or to take action to grow. So then I have less choice, because then I'm always stuck. When we're not self-reflecting, then we have less choice.
So what are some tips that you offer some of your clients on how to do a better job of self-reflection so that they can
Mhm.
establish greater self-awareness? Because what I'm hearing you say is that when you have greater self-awareness, you can actually be more courageous in your life because you do have more choices. And you are unpacking the story and looking at the facts, which make things a lot less emotional to have to deal with.
Mhm. One thing I want to say as well is that when you have self-awareness, you know yourself. And I think that's where the choice comes in. So I had to know myself to know that I wouldn't be happy being a lawyer, right? And I wouldn't have perhaps as great of an impact as I do now by following my passion.
But how on
And
earth did
so
you know that at that young age?
that's a good question. Actually, I started meditating in high school. Um, I didn't necessarily seek it out. There was happened to be a meditation group at my high school, and I like to spend time in nature with my as a kid, I'd go for long walks in the woods with my dog. Um, so I always had that desire to spend time with myself and with nature and reflect. And I think that's what I encourage my clients to do. And so, a morning routine, morning time when you first wake up, to me, is one of the best times to do that self reflection because the world is quiet and you wake up and there's that quiet reflection. There's an opportunity for quiet reflection time. That doesn't have to be meditation. It could be going for a walk, right, with your dog or on your own. It could be sitting outside and enjoying your coffee, or I like to drink lemon water in the morning, right? Outside on your porch. It could look like journaling, sitting down with a journal. So it could look a lot of different ways. Uh, and I encourage folks to, yes, take time to reflect and spend time with with ourselves. And that takes courage because when we first start doing it, if we've never done it before, there's a lot of stuff that can come up and it can feel super uncomfortable because our culture is very much into doing, do, uh, you know, take in as much as you can through all your senses so you feel good all the time. And sometimes it doesn't feel good to sit
Mhm.
with yourself at first.
Well, and I think you combine that with if you're uncomfortable with your feelings and are you are addicted to technology, technology can actually be a pacifier to sitting in how
Yeah.
you feel. Because it's really easy to grab your phone and to start scrolling on your phone and avoid how you're feeling.
Yes.
A lot of
Yes.
people do way too much of that today. That's a bad habit I have. I know you probably don't roll over and check your phone first thing in the morning, but I do.
Yeah, I hear you. And actually, that is the one I tell my clients, if there's one thing you can do for yourself to set yourself up with a more powerful mindset throughout the day, it's to not look at your phone first thing. It's to, when you first wake up, just express gratitude for your life, right? Bring in some, maybe think of an intention for the day or a gratitude. And and that's why I like the morning routine too. If you can create a buffer of, even if you start out with like 5 minutes, 5 minute buffer. Okay, I'm not going to look at my phone for 5 minutes right when I wake up. You start practicing small steps. I don't look at my phone for, I mean, I might check the time and I set a timer for meditation and practice, but I don't look at my phone until after my morning practice. And sometimes that's 2 hours after I wake up. And it
That's
helps me
great.
because as soon as we look at our phones, we're giving our power away to other people. Social media, the news, emails. And then what happens is our nervous system spikes. And when our nervous system spikes, digestion suffers, our mindset suffers, right? We might go into fight or flight. We don't have to have a physical threat in front of us to go into fight or flight. And unfortunately, in today's culture, it, in the traditionally or over time, we've evolved that our nervous system, yes, we're supposed to have spikes. That's normal if there's a threat, but then we're supposed to be able to go back down after that threat is passed. But now the threats are deadlines and emails and are we making enough money or what are the bills coming in? And so then our nervous system spikes and then it stays spiked, but it can't sustain that. So at some point it's going to crash, right? And when it's spiked, that looks like anxiety. And when it crashes, that can look like depression. I'm simplifying it. I'm
Right.
oversimplifying, but you get an idea of
Yeah.
why maybe giving yourself a buffer, whether it's first thing in the morning or right before you go to bed so that you sleep better.
Yeah. I can see the
Mhm.
power in that because I can recall experiences where I've got up in the morning and I've checked my phone and it started my day off wrong. And
Mhm.
I can also recall experiences where I've looked at email right before I went to bed at night and saw an email from somebody that again triggered me. And then I wasn't able to sleep because I'm thinking about that
Yeah.
email. And so I think it's a really good habit to develop those boundaries around giving yourself space in the morning and giving yourself a window before you go to bed where you do the same thing. I like that.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about coaching. So I can imagine that you have worked with coaches in the whitewater kayaking space in order to develop yourself as the top performing athlete you are. So, what was your first experience ever in hiring someone to coach you?
Well, actually, when I competed in whitewater kayaking and freestyle, the sport is still relatively new. I mean, whitewater kayaks only started to exist in the 80s. And so actually I didn't have a coach in whitewater kayaking. And I knew that was a deficit for me, actually. I have always said that if I had had a coach in my freestyle career, I actually think I would have had more success than I did. I would have, yeah. So, but when I was young, I alpine ski raced and I was in a ski race program and I respond really well to coaching and you know, and tough coaching because I remember my ski race coaches used to be funny but also, you know, keep you on track, and they weren't afraid to tell you like, no, you're not going in just because you're cold, you're going to do that, you know. And so in whitewater kayaking I was at the top and paddling with top paddlers. But I developed myself really of my own volition and getting out there and watching and paddling with folks and observing. And I did hire someone maybe for a few sessions, which really is incredible considering the success that I experienced.
Mhm.
It was also very detrimental to me to not have a coach. There were some competitions in at the peak of my career. I could have won uh, every competition that I entered, right? I'm not saying that I would have for sure, but I ended up third a lot, which is still really great. And that's because when my mindset would start spiraling, I didn't have someone there to stand for me. I didn't have someone to help bring me back into focus of like, hey, why are you thinking about everyone else on shore watching you? Who cares? Like, what do you need to do in this moment? What actions do you need to take in this competition to perform at your best? And so I wish I had had a coach in whitewater kayaking, and I'm so glad that because of and actually whitewater kayaking is an interesting industry because it's built in that way again because I think it's newer, that folks just learn from their friends, and some people even are like, oh, I don't need a coach, I don't need instruction, right? I'm like, okay, you know, but then I see them keep doing the same things over and over again and not um enjoying themselves, having the confidence they want. And so it actually took me a while before I hired you as a coach in business, even though I know I respond well to coaching. And it's the best thing that I've done for my business, hands down, because uh, you know, it's really when my mind, you know, I'm a coach. I coach people to come back when their mind starts spiraling, like on the river, into, oh, I'm a crappy kayaker, I shouldn't be here. It's like, no, no, like, okay, what do you want? What actions do you want to take now? And, you know, in my business, same thing. You know, I can start spiraling into, oh, I can't charge that much, or oh, no one's booking into this program. but yet my marketing strategy hasn't totally played out yet. And then by the time I finish the marketing strategy or implementation is done, oh, all of a sudden my program is full, right? So I don't know if that answered your question, but those are my reflections for you on my experiencing with coaching.
So were you a little, you said it took you a while to hire a coach for your business. Did you feel trepidation or uncertainty or fear around investing in a coach?
Oh yeah, for sure.
And so how did you overcome that fear or that, angst or uncertainty? What was it that gave you the confidence to move forward? And I ask you that, Anna, because there are a lot of people listening to the show that, they might be thinking about hiring a business coach, or they might be thinking about hiring a coach like you to help them, with their life and whitewater kayaking. And they may be experiencing the same types of fear or uncertainty. So I think, coming from someone who is so courageous, to hear how you felt and how you overcame that would be really helpful for people.
Yeah. Well, at the time, I felt really stuck in my business and didn't see a path forward that was empowering or joyful. And financially, I felt very stuck. And I actually started having a lot of anxiety. And I was like, someone like me doesn't have anxiety. What's going on? I have a meditation practice, yoga practice. I take care of myself. So I knew something was wrong. And when our mutual friend Stephanie, right, when I was talking with her, and Stephanie worked with you for several years, and she was telling me about her business and how she had success and she sold it, and she was really joyful. And I asked her, I said, how on earth did you do all that? And she said, oh, I've been working with Lisa. And she told me about coaching, and a light bulb went, just the feel, like, I know sounds maybe woo-woo, but a feeling inside. And actually it's not so woo-woo, because I'm on the river when I'm assessing a rapid, right? That's that self-awareness. I check in with the feeling inside. Can I do this? Do I want to do this? Is this for me today? And it's a really important question to ask. And it's on the river, it's yes or no. And if it's a yes, even though you're nervous, then it's a yes. And it's important for me to trust that. And so I had that same feeling. And then I had an opportunity, and really what made a difference is to have an opportunity to sit with you, right? And you invited me to come to a keynote you were giving in Asheville, which is all very serendipitous as well, that you happen to be in Asheville, and having an opportunity to sit down with you and have you listen. And I think that's important, because you want a coach who listens and who is willing to spend time, even a little bit of time. And so with the investment, because it was a stretch for me, I have a very small business, and growing yet small. And so
well, it's not as small as it was.
Right, exactly. That's what I mean. Growing. Yes. And so I have to trusting that feeling. And also, I remember walking out after meeting with you and saying to myself, my life is about to change. I just knew that. And I said that out loud to myself, Lisa, in the parking lot when I was leaving. And if I don't trust myself, who's going to trust myself? No one else can make a decision for me to hire a coach. My husband can't make the decision for me. My family members can't. I have to. And if I don't make a choice, like if I don't choose to run that rapid, then I'm not going to run it. Or if I choose to walk it, I'm going to walk it, and I have to trust that and be okay with that. And so I think that trusting myself was a big piece. And yeah, so that's what I'll say.
So I love that. I love, I believe in a bit of woo too. People think I'm all numbers and facts, but there are a lot of times where I will ask for believe it or not, I asked God, source, or universe for a sign before I quit my job to start my business in 2006. Right. And I got the sign. I was very specific because my mom's husband had passed away, and her house had been on the market for months and it was not selling. She hadn't had a showing in weeks. And my husband and I were helping her financially. And I remember standing in my kitchen and I literally had my hands on the counter and I looked up and I said, God, source, universe, whoever is listening, if I am meant to do this, quit my very good job, I need a sign. I need an offer on my mom's house by the end of this week so that I know that everything is going to be okay. Sure enough, within 24 hours, people that had looked at her house 3 weeks earlier that said they were not interested in it came back with an offer and she sold her house. So
that's awesome.
There's a little bit of, I have a little bit of that woo in me as well, but I'm not as, I'm not as present and connected to my thoughts the way that you are. And I think that that's one of your greatest gifts for other people. When you were at the beach house, I told you that you take up a lot of space. And I meant it in a very loving and complimentary way, because you are just so comfortable in your own skin that people feel that presence around you. And it's like they want it to rub off on them. So people are listening to the show, and of course they're impressed by you and everything that you've had to say, because you've said some amazing things. Do you only help women that are in the whitewater kayaking space? Or if there's, like, the name of your business is Mind, Body, Adventure. So let's just say, I'm somebody who, I want a better life. I want more joy. I want a better mindset. I want to eat and feel healthy, and I want more adventure in my life, but maybe that adventure isn't the water for me. Is that someone who should still consider looking at your services?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, my coaching is based on my experience and skill in the paddling world. And as y'all who have been listening can hear, a lot of my takeaways from kayaking apply to my life. And I can take those and help folks implement them into any adventure, right? And if an adventure is really taking on something where you're not sure of the outcome. So adventure doesn't have to be an outdoor adventure. It can be adventure in any area of your life. And my coaching is also based on Ayurveda, which is the sister science to yoga, which is in essence is circadian rhythm, right? And there's a lot of science on the benefits of following circadian rhythm in terms of your schedule. When you eat is just as important as what you eat. For instance, your sleep patterns, your morning routine, as I've already talked about. So I can really help folks implement strategies for their health, wellness, and for adventure, so that they feel more confident and joyful in their lives, right? Because we only have one life. This is it. This is it, y'all, right? And so what are you doing with your life? Is it bringing you joy? Are you doing do you have the self-awareness to know that you're living your best life and doing what you want to do?
Mm-hmm. I think that joy is a really important descriptor of how people want to live their life. And I think there's a lot of people that are not feeling joy in their life. And there's a whole bunch of reasons why they may not be feeling joy in their life. I mean, we're coming through a difficult season. COVID has been really hard on people. The inflation is hard on people right now. A potential recession is hard on people. And so I think that, one of the things that I talked about in the last episode that I created was being really aware of your inputs so that they don't affect your inner thinking, right? If all you're doing is consuming bad news, it can put you in a bad place right away. And if you have a really good practice like what you've described, you can actually take back control of your life and create more joy regardless of the circumstances.
Yes. Can I just say one thing to that? Yeah. So we think we take food in, and that's what we think of as digestion. Digestion is digesting food, but we have 5 senses. And according to Ayurveda and yoga, anything that we take in through our 5 senses has to be digested. So that means what we see, what we hear, what we touch, right? All of that has to be digested and processed. And so you're right on with what you're saying. Be mindful of what news or what media you're consuming, because you have to digest that, and that takes energy. And where do you want to focus your energy? What
Mhm.
type of actions do you want to focus your energy towards? And you want to have the energy to take those actions.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a really good point. I think if you are listening to this, you should be mindful of the things that get you riled up. I
Mhm.
know
Yeah.
that there was a season last year for me where politics was getting me really riled up, and I had to stop watching the news because I didn't want to get so riled up. And so I think
Yeah.
that is again, self-awareness. Recognize the things that are not adding life, energy, vitality, or not adding energy, joy, and vitality to your life, and start to eliminate some of those things and look for other methods that can actually make you enjoy your life more.
Yeah.
Anna, you are amazing. Thank you for sharing everything that you shared today. I am going to have links to your website, mindbodypaddle.com, right? That's right,
Yes. Yep.
mindbodypaddle.com.
Hmm.
And they will be in the show notes so that people can reach out to you. I also want to mention Anna has started this community for people. And the community, you can learn more about that if you go to her website. But I joined the community, and I am not a water person, but I joined the community because I love listening to what Anna has to say about all the other things that she does. And I love seeing the food recipes and just the insights that she shares with people. And the investment in that community is relatively inexpensive. So if you are liking the vibe and you want to get a little bit more close and personal with this lady, I would highly recommend you check her out. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of She Talks Business. Thank you, Anna, for being here, and we'll see you all next time.